All right, welcome everybody. It is David Thomas. I got Mr. Jay Woolwine with me. And so, as always, every Tuesday we jump on here at about 4 p.m. Eastern and share some motivation, some inspiration, and some dedication to you guys. So, whatever rhymes with shun. But the whole point is to bring you value, all right, to help you become a better version of yourself. And as I say every week, sometimes we talk about trading mindset, which obviously most of you are here for trading, or we talk about personal development. All right. So today we are going to be talking about more of that personal development aspect. And it's a really important topic. I think this is one that it's very valuable. You're going to find it, Zig Ziglar talks about it. Um, Carnegie talks about it. The guy who wrote How to Win Friends and Who Influence People. You get Napoleon Hill talks about it. All of these names you think of when it comes to personal development. So obviously, there's probably something to it, and that's doing more than what's expected. You know, um, those who just do the bare minimum, they don't get very far. So many people just do that. They just do what's expected, and they think that's enough. And sometimes, yeah, it's enough. But when you go the extra mile, whether it's at work, with friends, or just, helping someone out, it makes a huge difference. It really does. Not just for others, but for yourself. I've noticed that in my own life. It's like going beyond what's required. It helps shape your character. You become that better person. It strengthens your discipline and your integrity. You become someone who's reliable, dependable, and honestly just better for doing that extra mile. It's like a muscle, the more you stretch it, and work it out, the stronger it gets. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And I, it's almost like the principle of compounding, right? Compounding interest. Small, consistent acts kind of add up, right? And they give you more than you expected, right? And that does something for you, right? Not just for others. You develop that internal drive, and suddenly you're not just meeting the standard, right? Those small little deposits, you're raising, right? And it pays off more than you'd expect. I mean, think about it in relationships. When you put in that little bit of something extra, right? A little bit of extra effort, whether it's just a thoughtful text or wishing people a happy birthday on Facebook, things like that, right? Remembering something important or showing up even when it's not convenient for you. That strengthens the bond with those people. And people remember that, right? It creates trust, it creates reliability, and doing more than what's required doesn't just make you stand out, it makes you somebody that people can count on.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And just your volume got really low. I don't know if that's my computer or maybe your microphone, but maybe something to look at. But we'll see how it goes when you talk again. But yeah, it's funny when you embrace that mindset. It actually changes how you view challenges, and that's something that we talked about a lot, right? When you do more than what's asked, you stop seeing obstacles as problems and you start seeing them as opportunities. Like you might have seen at your work. When a project comes along that nobody wants, right? Because it's maybe complicated or tedious. If you start volunteering for it, that's when you can actually see that as an opportunity to grow, maybe in your career or whatever position you're in. You know, I like doing that, not just because I like the challenge itself, because I know that's where the growth is. That's where you stretch yourself. And sure, it's not always fun in the moment. Sometimes it's more work for you, but the payoff can be huge. You build resilience, confidence, and you get noticed. Whether you get noticed or not, I promise you get noticed. It sets you apart because most people are just coasting by on just good enough.
Sorry, I was just looking at my microphone.
Okay, yeah, you sound fine now. It's kind of
I
like
can turn it up a.
I think you're good. It sounds fine now.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. Um, you're talking about not aiming for just good enough, right? And that's,
Yeah,
that's really
right.
good. you know what else is it shifts how you handle setbacks, right? Like when you've made a habit of doing more than is just required, right? More than the minimum, you kind of become less rattled when something doesn't go your way, right? When you have failure, it's almost like you develop that internal resilience, right? It's like David said, like you're building that muscle, right? And you're used to pushing yourself. So when you hit a roadblock, you don't just give up, right? You just regroup, right? And press on, right? And that's where a lot of people tap out, right? They do what's expected, right? They do the minimum, and then they run into a roadblock and they stumble and they quit, right? And when you're used to doing more, right? When you're used to going above and beyond, you've already like conditioned yourself, right? You've already worked out that muscle so that you can handle that the harder hits, right? I don't know if you guys have ever seen like Muay Thai, right? That's like kickboxing.
Mhm.
Like those guys like pound on their shins, like they kick these sticks and stuff on their forearms and stuff, so that it's like a rock, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't hurt anymore, right? And it's, think about it like that. Like you're building up yourself to be tough, right? So that you can handle those harder hits, right? And it's like you've been training, like we said, like with weights on, right? And when they come off, all of a sudden you're stronger and it's easier than you think.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is the more you make that a habit, the more you actually start to enjoy it. You know, it's like what used to feel like extra effort, it kind of becomes like second nature. You know, you don't think twice about raising your hand and volunteering or staying late to finish some job or, helping a friend out when you really just wanted to sit on the couch all day. Right. It becomes part of your character, and I think that's rare these days. Most people are looking for shortcuts, right? I mean, it's funny. I was telling my kids the other day, I was like, it's not hard in today's world to get ahead if you're willing to go the extra mile, because guess what? Most people aren't. So when you're the person who consistently does more, you become different. You're dependable, and that leads to trust. And guess what? People like to be around people they can trust. It builds your reputation. And the best part is, it's not just for the rewards, although that's beneficial, but it actually helps you actually become that person. It becomes who you are, a person who is that high integrity, who's dependable, who has that special character. And that's the real benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, when you start living that way, right, you inspire other people to do the same thing, right? You know how like sometimes you go out of your way to be kind to somebody, right, or generous, and it makes you, or somebody does that to you, right? It makes you want to do that. I don't know if you guys have ever seen like the trend at Starbucks, right, where like you pull up to the window and they're like, oh, the car in front of you paid for your drink, right? So what do you feel like doing? You're like, oh, well, I'll pay for the guy behind me. Of course, every time I do that, it's like a family of 13.
My
Like
family's behind you.
David's family is behind me. It's $160. But anyway, it's second nature, right? To become generous and kind, and it makes you want to do something good too, right? It's like that when you do more than is required, whether it's showing up early or just giving your best effort at something or just being consistent with something, it creates that ripple effect, right? And people notice it, right? It makes them rethink their own approach to things, and that kind of influence lasts, right? It's not just building a good habit; you're helping raise the bar, right, for everybody around you. And honestly, that's pretty fulfilling, right? It's fulfilling knowing that you're making that kind of impact in other people's lives.
And that's what it's all about, touching other people's lives for the better. And I think that's one of the reasons we're here. So it's to help others as well. So, but yeah, so hopefully you got a lot of value out of that today, and take it to heart, because it can really impact your life in big ways. I can guarantee that. So hope you have a great rest of your week. We'll see you back towards the end of the week, as always. But yeah, thanks for watching. God bless, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.